Hello, sorry, yeah, I just realized we had a little bit of mic trouble. So I'll start all that again. Welcome to the session, everybody. My name is Ben Roberts. If you're looking into how do we generate more inquiries and win profitable work, you're in the right place. As we get started, if in the top right-hand area of your screen, you will see a little chat bubble where you will see I put a couple of messages in already. If you have any questions throughout the session, please do pop them in there and I will try and address them throughout the session. If not, I'll follow them up in the little Q&A after. So we're hoping to keep this to around half an hour or so. And as people keep joining, because obviously everyone's time is valuable, I will keep going. But again, if you have any questions throughout the session, please do pop them in the chat. So who am I and why am I talking to you about this today? So my name is Ben Roberts. I'm the Director of Marketing here at HBXL Group. I also, for any of you who've ever been on any of our Skills Academy, Skills Bootcamp courses, I do some of the marketing and presentation modules on there. A lot of my background over the last sort of 15, 16 years has been how do we help a range of different businesses, not just generate more inquiries, but also how do we help convert them more? And that's sort of what we're going to cover in this session, which I'm hoping you're going to get a lot out of, and sort of a different way of thinking about marketing or promoting yourself to get new work. What we are going to go, so just sort of a couple of bullet points on how the session is going to be structured for this sort of next sort of half an hour, 40 minutes. We're actually going to just address whether it's actually a lead problem that a lot of builders have, or whether actually it's a conversion problem and what the difference in that actually is. How to get leads, what's changing in terms of customer habits, and then how we can actually bring that all together with some actionable bits in terms of your marketing mix, in terms of how do you generate more leads, but how can you actually convert them as well, followed up with a Q&A. So the first sort of questions for you really, and it's sort of to ask yourself before we go into it, is are you struggling to get leads in the first place? Because this is something that builders often come say to us is, I'm not getting enough leads. Or people have another issue is, I've got leads, but I can't seem to get enough of them over the line. And they're sort of potentially two distinct camps, but a lot of it actually comes in both ways. If you generate more leads, if you can't convert them, then we're spending a lot more work for actually less profit. But actually, if we can focus on the back end of that in terms of the conversion of leads, then it makes everything a lot more efficient in terms of your profitability. Because most builders don't actually struggle to get some inquiries. The key word in there is some. Every person, if you have a builder, if you're a builder and you're putting yourself out there, you're doing some sort of promotion, or even if you're not really doing any promoting, but you're doing good work, you're going to get word of mouth referrals. So there will always be some inquiries. What you might struggle with more is actually how do we convert more of those? But if you've say got one inquiry coming through a week or a month, even if you convert 100% of those, it's not going to move the needle, right? You're still not going to have enough work to be profitable. So we do need enough leads, but we also need to make sure that we get that balance right. Because what a lot of people find is that they struggle to get the consistency and the quality within those leads. So what we want to try and address in here is what are some of the actionable bits that we can do to generate these new inquiries and convert them? And I've just got some really sort of quick maths just to sort of to kick us off really, is if you are generating 20 leads, and this could be over a month or a year, because I've split it as between a month and a year, because depending on the type of building work you're doing, you might be generating lots of little inquiries, or you might be doing actually a couple of jobs a year. Just so your average quote for this is 150,000, and what you've got is about 15,000 pound of profit in there per quote, which is about 10%. If you're turning 20% of those quotes actually into jobs, then you could potentially earn £60,000 profit, and that's doing 4 jobs, right? That's over that, and you could split that into each month or each year. So part of that is understanding actually the profitability on each of these jobs, because once you understand which jobs are actually profitable for you, you understand what it is, how much each of those leads or inquiries is costing you to get. Because if you don't understand, if you're not profitable anyway, so you're not when you're sending out quotes or you're doing estimates for people, and there's no profit in there, every lead you have is already costing you money that you're losing. So you're losing before you're even winning the job, right? So you're just getting into a negative spiral. So part of this is looking at, actually, how much is each of these leads going to cost me? So we're going to drive this a bit further and say, okay, well, if I'm, instead of generating 20 leads over a month or a year, I'm going to generate 30 leads. What this means then, actually, even if everything else stays equal and you're still got £150,000 average job quote, and you're still getting about £15,000 profit per job. But you're still turning 20% of those into quotes, right? So you're getting more. So yes, you've done more jobs. You've gone from 4 jobs up to 6 jobs now. Yes, you've earned more profit, but you've had to deal with an extra 10 new inquiries. Of those 10 inquiries, you've had to potentially go out and do site visits. You've had to spend time meeting the customer, you've had to generate the estimates or the quotes. All of that has taken more time. So think about the factoring in of that. Yes, you're converting exactly the same. So you are winning more work, but you've generated a lot more work before you've even done the work. So although you're generating the profit, you've actually had to do a lot more work to get there. The flip side of this is looking at better conversion. So even if we maintained our 20 leads over the month or year, and everything else is still equal, if you can convert 40% of those quotes, so it's actually you doing necessarily no more work than what you would do standard, you can actually get 8 jobs and £120,000 profit. So you're generating from the same number of leads that you've had, by looking at the conversion rate, by improving the conversion rate in terms of how you can get any of those across the line, you could potentially have more jobs and more profitable work at the end of it. The reason for displaying this is looking at, when we talk about, builders often say to us is, I need more leads, or I'm not really busy, I'm struggling to find new work. That is potentially one of the issues that you're facing. But the other way to look at it is, do you know actually how many leads you need to get and how many of those actually convert into work? Because if you can't understand, you don't know how many leads you're coming in, how are you supposed to be able to understand how many are actually converting? So therefore, where do we go? How many more do I need to generate? Hopefully you're following in as we go through this before we get into the actionable bits. So if you are in a position actually that you are generating those good leads already, you might not need more. You just might need to find a way of converting them better. Again, as part of this, the second part of this session, we're going to, okay, the lead generation and conversion. Because generating more leads, as I've already said, can, without converting better, just leads to you doing a lot more work at the front end, which isn't actually paid. So by looking at the way in which you convert leads, actually this goes into improving your profitability, because it's not taking much more work. You are getting paid for that work as well, because those ones are actually turning into paid work, as opposed to just dealing with the leads that aren't turning into, because that is not turning into paid work for you. So it is just costing you more money. So generating you more leads without better converting just costs you money, as opposed to improves your profitability. So, okay, but what if we can improve both lead generation and lead conversion? Well, yeah, this is the absolutely ideal scenario that we're going to be aiming for by the end of this, right? So the final bit of quick maths, because I know it's gone 5 o'clock, right? If we can increase the number of leads from that 20 to 30, keeping the average quote and the profit margin within there the same, and we can increase the conversion rate just by 10% on that. Well, this actually gives us more jobs and gives us better profitability, because we know actually that more of our work is actually the work that we've done to win these jobs has actually turned into profitable work. This is the ideal scenario, right, where we were not increasing our leads by too many that we're suddenly going, oh, I'm doing so much work on the front end that isn't paid, but we're also increasing the conversion rate, where it goes, actually, this is the stuff that is actually going to earn us money in our pockets, going to keep us on site, going to keep everyone employed. So more leads, more quoting, which takes time and costs you money. The better conversion means more time earning profit. And so it's not just about the leads, it's about converting them more, because that improves profitability. So that sort of summarizes, hopefully, the opening session of why this is actually all important. It's not necessarily about just leads, it's about how we convert them. Okay, so the bit that you probably really want to get into now is like, how do we actually generate some more of these leads and inquiries for the business? Well, most of you guys will probably recognize this, because this is how most builders are generating leads right now. Word of mouth. It is the standard for how the construction industry generates business. It's why? Because it's really cost effective. We do not have to be a marketer. We do not have to be someone who is adept with any sort of technology to be able to do this, right? Really cost effective. I do good job. Someone says that you've done a good job, they'll say you should work with this person because they do a good job. Super simple. The problem with word of mouth, and this is where the difference between builders that want to grow can struggle to grow, is if they rely purely on word of mouth, is that it can lead to really inconsistent and unpredictable peaks and troughs in when your inquiries are coming in. It's really hard to scale as well. So if you want to try and grow your business, relying on word of mouth can be really difficult, because you're not in control of where that happens. And oftentimes, the word of mouth comes when this referral sort of comes in, because it's not in your control. They can come in at times where you sort of really don't want them. So if you've just completed a job and you're moving on to another one, and then you get a referral from that previous job, you might not be able to get round to it for 6, 8, 9 months, depending on how long your jobs are. So it's really difficult to sort of bank some of those up. But when it's done well, builders can never be out of work, right? Because if they're doing good work, they can generate referrals. But if you want to grow and we want to increase the number of leads, it's really difficult to scale this. Lead platforms. So ones that will come to mind are Checkatrade, MyBuilder. People use these a lot, especially if we are starting out in the industry, or we think that we're going to be short on leads. We haven't got enough to keep us in work right now. As a short-term fix, a lot of people will go to these platforms. Why? And they're good to a point, because customers are looking at these platforms. People who don't know exactly what they want. They don't know a builder. They don't have that word of mouth. They don't have someone they can ask going, oh, who did your loft conversion, or who built your extension? They'll then go on to these platforms. But what we find with these platforms, it's very much a race to the bottom effect, right? It's highly competitive. Actually, people are looking for cheaper quotes, not necessarily better quality quotes, right? In terms of what's going to build your business become profitable. We're looking at actually jobs that are going to help turn you over, but they're not actually going to be in the long term hugely beneficial to your business. Because even if these people then do refer you from word of mouth, you're being referred on low cost jobs, and they're expecting that low cost again, which means you're still not profitable, and you're getting now word of mouth referrals on the jobs that you're not already earning any profit on. And again, you're not in control of these leads either, because actually a lot of these platforms will tie you in with the phone numbers and email addresses, so people can't contact you necessarily directly or without going through their numbers. Another way that a lot of you guys will probably be doing already, or at least recognize, is actually using your own website to be able to generate leads. And it can be a really positive, unique asset. It's a really good opportunity to sell and value your work. However, the flip side of this is actually a lot of builders, because it's not the specialism, it's not something that you've grown an area that many builders are really, say, they're expert in web design. They actually aren't built in terms of how do they appear in searches. So it means actually that you've got a website, but it's actually not working as hard for you as it should do, because it's not appearing where potential customers are looking for, or using the right words and phrases in which you're going to appear in searches. With websites, you have to be really specific about the words and phrases that you actually include in there, because That's how search engines such as Google or even AI engines such as Claude, ChatGPT, they're picking up on the words and phrases that are used in your website to cite, so again, refer people to your website. These things cannot make up and assume that your website is doing a thing if you do not mention it on there, or it operates in a certain area, that you do single story lean to extensions. If you don't mention it anywhere, you're never going to appear for a search around single story lean to extensions, for example. Also, with your own website, again, it can be really difficult to keep it maintained and updated because things do change a lot, but you are in control of it. But it's because we're not necessarily specialists in it, it's very easy for it to be overlooked when things get busy. The final way in which you're probably do marketing right now is social media, and because it's a fantastic way to showcase work in terms of projects that you've worked on, completed, some really nice visuals, using it almost as a hub of a gallery of being able to refer people to so they can see that your business is active in there, and you can reach a wide range of potential customers. The downside necessarily, and again, this is all downsides depending on you as an individual, is it can require a lot of continuous posting. Some people aren't overly comfortable with that. Sometimes it's something that's easily forgotten. And it's very easy to suddenly go, actually, I'm not going to post for 3 or 4 months. But then if you've been regularly posting for, say, a year, and then you stop posting for 6 months, that's actually can be quite a negative sign for customers, because then it looks like you are no longer active. So trying to get that consistency with posting, be it either actually we're going to post once a month, everything, but we're doing that because we're not overburdening ourselves if it's something that we cannot commit to. And sometimes it can be hard to get truly local work. We can get a lot of sort of spam messages. We can get a lot of stuff that isn't really relevant to us. But we'll look at this in terms of how we can do social media, where we can use social media to really benefit us as we go through this session. Before I keep moving on, just a reminder that if you do have any questions at all, please do pop them in the chat, and I can either address them if it's relevant during the session, or I can cover them at the end. There'll be a little bit of time for a Q&A if anyone wants to stay and ask any questions. So these methods all work, and what I want to highlight is these are probably some of the four, probably the main ways in which builders are generating inquiries. There are other ways in which you can generate inquiries. Some people will be doing some other bits I'll probably cover in a bit, but actually our feeling is the more builders we speak to, is these are the four that probably come up the most. But things are changing as well. So that's probably where it's probably hard sometimes, right? There's been a lot of change in the way that people over the last sort of probably since the COVID years, things have changed even more dramatically than they were doing before. Things that are changing, decision making from customers. Now, when we think about this, it's both in some ways faster and in some ways a lot slower. And also the expectation levels are quite different. With the advent of AI and things, what we're seeing is that a lot more people are becoming sort of quote unquote AI. They've done an AI estimation of the projects that they want doing and have a ballpark figure that they think is going to be relevant for a builder. But to try and get a full estimate done using, say, ChatGPT as an example, is really, really difficult, because it takes a heck of a lot of work to really get nowhere near accurate. The problem is actually some people are using AI as a single source of truth, and that sometimes can make decision making quicker if you're close, but actually it can make things a lot slower. People are more informed and they're able to have more information at their fingertips now than they ever had before. So some people are making decisions really quick, but also changes in sort of the global economy, where suddenly inflation or oil prices suddenly go up when we've got wars in different parts of the world. What that's meaning is essentially some people are delaying decisions, so where they could make things really fast because they want to just secure it now, or they're actually delaying these decisions after making the initial inquiry. So there's a lot of factors going into decision making from customers there, but they are able to do a lot more deeper research. On the skills bootcamps, we talk about how if you're a limited company, your accounts are publicly visible by a company's house, and more customers are using that to search to see if your business is still operating, that you are legitimate, that you are actually able to be a profitable business, that you're not going to go bust or run off with their money halfway through a job. And again, the level of competition is really steep. There are market pressures and costs that we're seeing that builders who come and talk to us around material prices through no one's fault will go up because of certain external factors, and the cost of building now is far more expensive than it was pre-2020 or so. So then we start having all these factors. You go, whoa, crikey, this is a really sort of crazy time. But there are things you want to do. I don't want to be like, oh God, there's no hope. That's absolutely not true. There are a number of things we can do right now that are hopefully going to help you generate both more inquiries and be able to convert them. So how do we actually do this? When we think about referrals and word of mouth, we need to be a bit more active about it than just passive. Instead of just waiting and hoping that someone is going to refer you, we actually try and get ahead of the curve a little bit on that. And having a plan for referrals as a legitimate marketing activity is something that's really good to do, right? And you can give customers everything that they need to be able to refer you. What we find with a lot of builders is once they've done the job, they shake hands with the owner, they get paid, great. Oh yeah, and if you know anyone, please let them know. People have really short memories sometimes and attention spans. There is absolutely no harm in asking or creating these things and asking the homeowner if they're like, yeah, if there's a couple of business cards there, a couple of flyers, or any information that you want to leave for the customer to be able to give that to someone else. If someone has, you've done a new kitchen for someone, or you've done an extension for someone, one thing that customers really like to do, right, and think about it maybe from your own perspective, is you want to invite other people over your house maybe for dinner, or show the work that's been done. If you're proud and you're really happy with the outcome of the job, then you want to show this off to other people, or show people, well, this is what, look at our new house, look at our new extension, essentially. So being able to equip them with a discount for if they refer them for any future work. If you equip them with, will you allow them to take photos? Could you even supply photos of the work in progress to them so that they can post on their social media tagging you in, so that you can refer to it? So you're in control of the photos a little bit more. That's one less thing that a customer has to do, because you might already be taking site photos anyway. They can then share it on their platforms with their audiences and tag you in there. And a bit of a weird sort of side reference on this is there's an industry that is absolutely incredible at this, and it's actually the wedding industry. Almost every single bride that you see these days almost tags every single person that that's done part of their wedding attire for them, from the dress, makeup, hair, whatever it is. That is a fantastic way of being able to generate these links back to you. So think from your building company perspective, give the customer what they need to be able to refer you. And suddenly you'll find that actually you'll start noticing that the presence out there, you've in control of the photos, and that can actually be a really positive thing for you. Networking. This is something that people either really, really love, or they sometimes get a little bit cringe about. But we found that builders who really embrace networking in different forms, be it something that could be really structured, or something that's unstructured. It could be really builder specific, or it could be quite general business specific. Have a look at those. If you haven't tried them, they are a great way of being able to generate long-term referrals as well, and that consistent referrals over time. So you know that you're putting in a bit of hours and you're able to generate consistent work over time. Thinking about where do people look and search? Well, it's about being where people can see you. And that's something, that visibility aspect is really important. So from Google, I'm going to show you some examples in a second. But Google's one, again, even with the advent of AI, Google is still hugely dominant and hugely powerful. Yes, we can look at Bing, and the same principles will apply to Bing and other search engines. Local social media groups, in terms of making, again, looking at your social media handles and stuff, leaving those with customers, because some of them will post in local social media groups. If you were to post in local social media groups as yourself, you'll probably find sometimes you feels like you're sort of falling on deaf ears a little bit. But there are also, if you check out your local social media groups, and in on Facebook or anything like that, you will find that people are often asking, can anyone recommend? Can anyone recommend? You want to make sure that any of your past customers are armed with all the information to be able to be reminded of you and refer you. Social media ads can be super effective at targeting people. The only problem you'll have with social ads, or let's say the only problem, probably the largest problem, is that you're often reaching people who aren't necessarily looking for what they need right now. But what you are doing is planting seeds in people's minds. If you're doing smaller jobs, and then it's like actually you turning up in people's mind more regularly. If you're probably doing new builds, it's probably a little bit more difficult to generate regular leads and convert them through social ads. Physical signage, literature, these are things like literatures in letters, sending out letters into the local area. These are really good ways that are almost competition free and low cost to try to go, I've done great work in a certain area, it's the certain type of property that I love working in. How can I make sure I get more work from those properties? Spending a little bit of time delivering letters saying you're doing work in the area, come check out if you have any questions. It could be completely non-salesy, and that's almost a really positive approach that people like, is you're not trying to sell them, but you're actually providing a little service and you're providing information at the same time. Absolutely perfect. And AI is something that is coming up more and more. But as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the search engines, you've got to be able to mention that you do certain work in certain areas. So people are starting to use AI engines to look for, are there any good builders in this area? The AI then will scrape like things like reviews, will scrape mentions of all these things from elsewhere on the web, and then say, here are the builders that we would recommend. It can be quite difficult, quite a long-winded process, but without your website having that information and generating reviews, you're going to really struggle on that AI front. So it's important that we start thinking about it now, because AI will become even more prevalent than it is now going forward. So here's an example of making sure that if I was typing in loft conversions in Nottingham, these businesses here have all got Google My Business Google My Business listings. This is a free listing that if you just type in Google My Business, get your business on there, because then you can get a map listing. If people are looking for often looking for builders in their local area or the vicinity of where they are, because if I'm based in Nottingham, for example, I'm not going to want a builder from Newcastle. I'm going to want one from the local area. So I'm probably going to be searching for loft conversions Nottingham, loft conversions near me, or even loft conversions in somewhere a region specific to Nottingham. So it's making sure again that we have all these little bases covered. You can see I just picked out this example of the classic ABC builders, and as you can see here, there is a Google My Business listing on the right hand side. And you can see straight away on here, we've got Checkatrade, we've got the company information on the left side, and we've got a couple of different businesses that are labeled that. Which one is the one you're actually looking for? Because no one's dominating that search, and we need to maybe think about how do we become top of that. As we get into this final stretch, probably another 5 minutes or so before we go into the Q&A. I see there are a couple of questions coming through, so actually I will address some of those now. Conversion can seem to be tough and slow at the moment with the slow decision making. Yes, I absolutely agree, Safet. This is one of the things where it can be really, so because there's so many changes in sort of the wider macro economy, people are dragging their heels a little bit. It doesn't help these platforms that you have quoted give customers a figure of what something should cost. So then the customer expects the job competed for that cost, but the costs don't allow for the removal of rubbish. Yeah, mine, absolutely right, is and being able to educate as well of that. And this is one of the difficult things as builders right now. We're almost expected to educate customers. They think that they're educated, and we almost have to be in a step where we're almost re-educating people about what it is. Because actually, if I type in, oh, I want an estimate, that even if I give it ChatGPT or, for example, a load of information, it's going to exclude. It does, yeah. It doesn't take into account rubbish clearance. It doesn't take into account, oh, how much a skip. What does this difference in a skip removal from London versus Liverpool, right? Because I tell you what, skips are a lot more expensive in London. All those little things, but suddenly it's not just one or two of those. They all add up, and that's suddenly thousands, tens of thousands extra on a job that a builder's not even factored. Embracing a CRM. Now, this is, I think, is probably going to be one of the differentiating factors between a lot of builders, especially if they want to grow, is that a CRM stands for customer relationship management. There are a lot of free tools. I'll show a couple of them in a second. But what the benefit of a CRM if you do not have one already? And I definitely recommend at least a free one. To start off with, do not pay for one until you understand really or sort of test it out a little bit. But what it does, it allows you to collect and store customer information or inquiry information in one place. Allows you to track progress, manage comms, manage your pipeline, and then monitor potential values of work. So it started giving you an idea of how many leads or inquiries you had come in, how many are turning to jobs, how long are some of those taking. I think as Safet said in the question there, is we're looking at how long does it actually take some of these customers to convert. So then we can start going, okay, well, actually, we need leads almost 6 months in ahead of when, because that's how long it's taking to convert at the moment. So we need more leads now because they're going to convert in 6 months' time. And it allows us to monitor the potential values. Are the values of work we're doing going up, going down? So there's three here that I've highlighted that they all have free versions that it might be worth looking at if you don't already have a CRM. And again, I'd love it if anyone's using a CRM at the moment to monitor these. What it allows you to do is, which I think a lot of builders don't get right, is there's can be quite a negative reputation within the construction industry of people not getting back to each other and losing information. What a CRM does, it allows you to have it in one place, and you can see how much activity is. You can move people from one step down to another and share it with people in your business. It also allows you to then have a record of all your past customers so that you can cycle back to them. So if leads are slower, you can cycle back to some of those past customers and then see if you can re-engage them. HubSpot, Zoho, CRM, and Monday, they're three that I've personally used over the last couple of years. I like all of them for different reasons. Some of them are simpler, some are more complex. All of them have a free version that you can have a look at and test as well. So the last two bits before we wrap up is the total value of you. Give customers more than just a price. Even if a customer is asking for a price, think about how you package up that price. You could send a quote over which has the breakdown of it, but what that doesn't do, you can have a really detailed quote which has everything you need. So stuff that, say, you can be generating from some estimating software like Estimator Express. You could generate a huge amount of really good information that shows that you have all the breakdowns, there's no hidden costs. But what any of these quotes do in terms of how you present it is almost as important in many ways. Talking about how you work, the qualifications, the experience. A big bit of paper that says it will break down the cost, functionally absolutely correct, but how do we deliver even more than that? The presentation, including that quote in a presentation that has all this information that a customer has not asked for but adds extra value. How do we show that we're going above and beyond? How are we highlighting to them this extra value that the other builders aren't? These little things are showing the work that you've done. So in this example of just taking a couple of slides from a presentation I've created, showing an end result of a home that we built. And it's more than a quote. It's everything that you would want. So if you're from the customer's shoes, everything that you would want to know, and you're giving them every reason to say yes, including elements of the building plans there. What does a floor plan actually look like? What is the detail that's going to go into that? Including the quote within the presentation, showing that it's fully comprehensive, that you've got detailed breakdowns, that it can be tailored. And this, in a lot of presentations, this can all be embedded so someone can click on that and then see an example quote. How you manage your job, this is really important to people as well, especially if you're going for really high value, high cost projects. People want to know much about how it's going to be done as opposed to just the financials. The more people have to invest, they want to know more about the project than just if it's I need you to paint a wall for me. They don't want to know about how you're going to paint the wall. They just want the wall painted. But if you're going to actually do a full house build or you're doing a full renovation, they want to know maybe the steps that are going into it because there's a far more risk to it. So as we wrap this up then, do you actually want more leads or do you want a better conversion rate? In this second part, hopefully I showed you some ways in which you can generate more leads or things that if you're not doing already, add to your marketing mix. But then also looking at that CRM in terms of the management of it. So generating leads, managing those leads, and then converting those leads. Instead of just thinking about a topic, I need to generate more. Can we convert more using this? How do we make sure that, well, if someone hasn't had any comms for 6 weeks, should I reach back out to them just to remind that they're here? Because sometimes, again, if you're front of mind, you're more likely to seal the deal than if they've completely forgotten about you. Just a final note is we have more resources on the website, including a free 16-page profit making guide, which you'll receive in an email after this. And again, if you have any questions, you're absolutely more than welcome to drop a chat on the website anytime, book a short demonstration, discovery call, find out again more about this. And again, if you feel free to ask for me, and we can also I'll send you some information on email as well, that if you have any other questions or want to discuss any of this, we are absolutely more than willing to help. So thank you for your time today. I apologize that we are slightly over, but hopefully there were some nuggets of information that you're going to find really beneficial there. So if you want to shoot off now, please do so. If you have any other questions, please do pop them in the chat. I'll hang around for a few more minutes to answer them. Otherwise, I hope you have a great evening, and I'll hopefully see you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.